It's time for Who Watch, Time and Relative Blackness in Space.
Black girls have the box.
Hi, everyone. It's Bayana, Connie, and Robin coming to you live from the Time Vortex.
Today we are continuing our companion series by discussing all there is to discuss about Bill Potts. Bill Feels.
So many Bill feels about my twin Bill.
Yay.
Yeah, so when we meet Bill, she is working at a university cafeteria. She's not a student. That's just her job. But she goes in to, like, for lack of a better word, she, like, sneaks into the lectures that the doctor gives. Because at this point in time, the doctor is, like, teaching at the university and has been there for who knows how long. For hella long.
He doesn't even like staying in one place like that.
No, but
anyway, this is about her. True.
Yeah.
Because she did stay in Victorian England.
Right, yeah. Unless he's in Victorian England. And apparently a university. But he also gets to teach, like, whatever he wants. So I guess that's, like, part of it. He just gets to talk about whatever he wants. But anyway, the doctor notices that she is in the class and calls her into his office. And we learn that, like, there are plenty of other people who also sneak into his class because he's a weirdo and, like, interesting. But that he notices her because, and I believe he says, like, when other people don't understand something, they frown. And when Bill does it, she smiles.
Mm-hmm.
And so from then on, the doctor offers to tutor her and, like, gets her into the school and, like, is like, now you can, hang out with me.
We're BFFs now.
Yeah. So unrelated question, though, because of the way that you set this up, is auditing a class not a thing in England? Like, can you just not? No?
I said I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Curious. Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, but also, like, I guess you don't always want to have to, and she's a chip girl. She can't afford to audit a class. Don't you have to pay for that?
Oh, do you?
No.
Again, yeah, I have no answers.
No answers.
I paid for all of my classes. They were all part of my structure.
Yeah.
I have no idea what the deal is. But I also think that is also part of the point. She snuck in. Even if there was a way, like an official way for her to do it, she snuck in. And, like, I think that's what he enjoyed about her and, like, why he was like, hello. Like, even if she if she had chosen to officially audit the class or take it or enroll, he would have ignored her.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been as interesting to the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a great, like, immediate introduction to who her character is.
Yeah. And
one of the few things they get right about this season.
Right. Bill is also our second Black companion in Doctor Who, I think, ever, potentially. Maybe.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
I can't. Yeah. I think someone would have mentioned it. We would know.
If
we would be like, true. Oh, yeah, and that Black companion from the old series, even if none of us had watched it, we'd know.
Yeah.
We've had part-time companions like we talked about with Mickey.
Yeah.
But full-time companion.
Well, yeah, she's our second full-time companion.
Yeah. And our
fourth
openly Black character.
Good Lord.
Fourth, yeah.
Just 4?
Right, because Danny.
That sounds about right.
Martha, Bill.
I thought you were going to add River.
Oh, and
the way your face,
You're right.
The way your face looked
And
made me
River.
think that it was gonna be
5 of it.
River.
Guys, we can't just be given Alice Kingston. Like,
well, see, like it's so in my head, this is different, right? Like it's not like I'm like, oh, she's invited to the cookout. I'm just like, she clearly has some black in her.
we just need to somebody call
in her line.
Louis Gates.
Yeah,
They've
I'm like,
already
somebody
called
in her
Henry
little
Louis
timeline,
Gates.
family tree is lying. That's all I'm saying.
Because they already called Henry Louis Gates, and he was like, nah. So we'll talk more about it
Someone's
in
lying.
our next one. But back to Bill. Yes, she's our fourth black full-time character. I will say, as opposed because Mickey wasn't a full-time companion, but like still a main character.
Yeah.
And
also,
first queer character.
Our first queer character?
I think so.
Second?
Captain Jack.
Oh, Captain Jack.
After Jack, yes. Obviously, first black queer companion.
Definitely first.
Out of the four.
Really funny was my, I was in San Diego this past weekend for Father's, timey-wimey. I was in San Diego for Father's Day. And my dad was like, when do you think we'll stop having to say first black? And I was like, I don't know, like 100, 200 years. And he was like, really? And I was like, well, we still got to get the first black woman president, and look where we're at right now, because we can't even get a whole white woman. White woman in there. So, you know. But also shout out to London Breed, who's the first African-American female mayor in San Francisco. Which is how we started that conversation.
Yeah.
But so we're going to be saying first black XXX companion for quite some time.
Yeah, for sure.
Like.
And so Bill is like, they make it clear off top. They make it clear pretty early on in the first episode that she's queer, and that is like a character trait and a thing that comes up often. She gets hit on by dudes more than once, and she has at least 2 women who she has like some kind of like, not really, I wouldn't call them relationships because they don't get that far, but like that she
romantic connection.
Yeah, thank you. So it's like it's a thing. I think it often ends up being used as like a quit, like it's often like a joke, not like a joke, but like they're quits, right? Where like somebody mentioned something. So a guy could hit on her. Right, the guys hit on her and she's like, yeah, dude, I'm not into dudes. And then there's like her mom will be like, I don't want you bringing a guy here. And she's like, yeah, neither do I. Although that was one thing I had questions about, because I was like rewatching a couple Bill episodes, and it seems like she's pretty, like from what we largely see, like she's very like confident in her, and like, what is the word?
Very open.
Yeah, she's very open about her sexuality and very like secure in that. But then it also seems like she is in the closet with her foster mother. Right. But it is not clear whether it's like an actual, like, you know, like whether she's like actually like, nah, I already know she's not about that, and I'm trying to, you know, have a place to live. But it also seems like the way that she makes quips when her foster mom mentions things, that it is like, that it makes it seem less like Bill hasn't told her and more like she's just like
ignoring or hasn't
oblivious. Yeah. You know what I mean? Or just like not paying attention. And it's not clear. And like, I don't know, for some reason it, like, I think it'd be fine. And I think it would be like really interesting to see someone who is like, because I think it's often the reality for a lot of queer people where they are mostly out, but then they're in the closet with certain people. And so, but it didn't really feel like, and part of this is because, and we'll get into like her family and friends and like the way that her relationships aren't really set up anyway.
The Moffat trap.
I think that's part of the reason we don't actually get that nuance. Like, it really just seems like her foster mom is like just really obtuse and is like, shouldn't bring it, because she says it, you shouldn't be a guy in, and she's like, yeah, you shouldn't worry about that. And then homegirl moves on to the next thing, sees Penny and is like, oh, it's just a friend, and it's like, you are that, okay. All right.
Well, I do think that sometimes, like, parental figures can just, like, you can come out and they just are like, no, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Right.
You know? So,
Yeah.
But again, because it's not dealt with, we don't know.
Right.
And it's hard to tell how much is on purpose.
Yeah, it's less about her foster mom's reaction and more about the fact that we don't really get much backstory between the two. So we don't know why Bill wouldn't say anything or why Homegirl just seems to not understand. You know what I mean? Like, it just, there a lot about their relationship is very, like, not fleshed out at all.
Which always, to me, felt like they were setting us up for Bill's mother, real mother, biological mother.
Yeah.
And then when we didn't get that,
Like
I was even more upset.
Like,
what are we doing
the
here?
whole second half of the season could have been some sort of mother discovery, like, situation.
With her dad,
It made
except better.
Yeah, like, with Rose's dad, but better. Like, it could have been an arc, you know? Like, hey, you know, the doctor, went back in time to get pictures of her so that Bill could have them. So, like, he just was hanging out with her mama and then there was nothing else, really?
No.
He couldn't tell some stories, couldn't have hung out with her for like a week. Like, all right, so let me tell you about your mom. Like, even that idea of one scene would have been like a cool thing for him to do for her. And it's like, they did the pictures, but like, he's a time traveler. Why didn't we like explore that anymore instead of whatever we did?
Yeah, they
still don't know what we
really
did,
like the
what
first
we
half
did.
of the season. They definitely set up like Bill's like interest and kind of like fascination with her mother, and like she talks to her when she's like moving into the house. She's like hanging out a picture of her. She, you know what I mean? Like she often thinks about her. And then we get like in, I guess it's a little bit over half of the season, but the end of episode 8, like her thinking about her mother is what saves Earth from the monks or whatever. Yeah. But then after that, which was fine. But then after that, we like her mom is not brought up again.
Yeah,
like it's just not a thing anymore. And if that had been the finale, then fine. But it was. You know what I mean? Like if we had the finale and it had been like the thoughts of her mom saved. It's like a little bit corny, but whatever. It's the end and like cool, yeah, everything's saved. But it was like a middle point. It was just another episode on the path to the end and had nothing to do with the actual end game and felt kind of like frustrating.
Yeah, for sure.
And we've talked about the idea that Moffat is terrible at building companion relationships outside of the Doctor and anyone who's traveling in the TARDIS. So the thing with Bill, in the way that he does it the same again, but still somehow in always different ways, but it's still the same like lack of development, but in a different way every time. Because Amy's was like mostly on purpose, where it's like a mystery that he has to solve, like the Doctor wants to solve, but that they don't really want you to notice is a mystery that he's trying to solve. Like at the end of the season, it's just like, oh, I've been trying to figure out what's been happening with you all this time. And then with Clara, it was sort of like, well, you're the impossible girl, and like again, the point is that she has no story, and so the Doctor's intrigued. So like here we go again, and like Bill doesn't have that problem. So like there's no mystery about her family to solve, and yet we still don't get the backstory. So it's just like, why again? Really, Moffat? Like the first 2 times, like it was a repeat. Like, all right, we repeating this. Like,
but
she don't got no parent storyline.
Even with Amy,
with Clara,
she doesn't have parents. Was season 5? He brought back her parents, and then we don't see
and then
them
we
at
never
all.
see her.
So like he very much, unless they're like on screen,
and then we get Rory's dad,
and then we get Rory's dad randomly out of nowhere. We've never seen him before. All of a sudden, he's there,
but he's great.
Like, and he's great,
yes.
but he's also just there. You know what I mean? And so it's very much like he does not set that up. He doesn't think about that when he's thinking about the like about the stories. And so it's the same with Clara. They bring up some stuff about her parents, and then it disappears. And then like at the end of season 7, her family comes up and you don't know who they are in relation to her. And then you come here and you're like, okay, there's this foster mother, but we don't really know like how she came into her care. Like Bill is a grown woman now. They imply that it's really just because like she's a millennial and doesn't have any money, which is valid. But there's no like real exploration of their relationship in addition to Bill's and how that like affects Bill's thinking and relationship about her mother.
Yeah.
And then like, so like none of the on Earth relationships like stick at all. They're very much like one-offs or like things that you need for
plot. It's all just because of plot.
Exactly.
Ugh.
I was just thinking when you were saying that too, like the one time we get like backstory for Clara is very much with the parents and that leaf that further one plot point that then disappears, and the same happens with Bill and her mother, is that it furthers that plot point with the monks and then it disappears. And I think I want to like focus on talking about Bill as a character, but again, we can't escape like
it's a pattern. Of
Moffat's writing and his patterns and things. But like he really, in the season that we get of Bill, it really felt like he was already out the door, and because nothing was. It was probably for me one of, if not the most confusing season of just like, what does all of this have to do with? Like, it was like, it felt like they were building up to this big mystery. And then it just, I was confused. Like, I just
fizzled.
I don't understand.
It definitely fizzled out.
Yeah.
I would say it's on, well, and this is saying a lot, it was on par with season 7, which as a whole is, in terms of like being a complete unit of one season, is very confusing because it's split between 2 companions, and like those halves of the season are in and of themselves kind of confusing stories, but separate, and like a lot of one-off episodes that don't really have anything to do with each other. But I agree that like this season, it just feels like Moffat was done, and he just couldn't help himself when introducing all of these grand ideas, and then it was just like, oh wait, I don't actually have time to push this into another season, which is what he did with season 5, in terms of like introducing a bunch of things and then being like, ha, there's one more mystery, and then pushing that into 6 and then whatever 7 was. Which is just very frustrating considering how excited we were for Bill and how great she is as a character. And it's like, how do you put so much energy into... Because her characterization was pretty good, considering Moffat and, like, his experience with Black women and LGBT people.
Well, I do want to point out that Thin Ice...
On a scale.
No.
Thin Ice is written by a woman.
Not that. So Thin Ice is
I'm not trying to give him too much credit.
Yeah, no. This is not giving him credit. Thin Ice is arguably the best episode in that season.
And it was written by a woman, right?
It is written by a woman. So.
Yeah. So, you know, Bill has decent characterization in and of herself, but none of that is extended to any of the other characters around her, except for somewhat the Doctor, but still even not on the same scale as any other companion, which I guess we can sort of transition to, just talking about her relationship with the Doctor and how, I don't know, I guess the Doctor has become best friends with like all of his companions except maybe Martha. Just because their relationship was so awkward and weird. And so they mimic that again.
Except I think this relationship is slightly like, because he is her teacher and like her professor. Yeah. It does, like, there are often times when he talks to her that it feels like he's teaching her. And she doesn't always receive it. So like there was in Thin Ice, there's a moment where like they watch this kid die and he's like, well, you have to move on. And she's like, are you kidding me? Like, nah, fam, like you can't say that. You can't talk to me like that. So there are moments where she pushes back, but often he's like teaching her something. And then like, but in some ways it is still like he feels responsible for her in the same way that he often does for all of his companions. And she also follows him, not necessarily blindly, because and we'll like get into the questions, but she has a lot of questions. So she'll ask, even if she's like down to do whatever, but she still has that faith that like the doctor is going to save us or whatever. That pretty much all companions tend to have.
Yeah.
I also think that the episode, I can't remember the name, where she's moving in with her friends, and she introduces him. Sorry?
Knock, knock.
Yeah, knock, knock. And she introduces him as her grandpa, and he gets kind of like, grandpa, you know, and it's a running joke. But I do feel like there is that, like, yes, there's a professorial type of relationship, but there also is this, like, familial, not quite best friends the way that he was with Amy or Clara, and definitely not love interest like Rose or
Amy.
Early
Amy.
or I was going to say, or like Martha Wanted.
Yeah.
But, and not equal. I always felt like Donna, they were like equal.
Yeah.
There was a best friend thing, but like Donna was never in awe of him the way that the others were. So I did feel like it kind of reminded me of the few like classic Who things that I've seen or like read about where he's traveling with like a granddaughter, you know?
Yeah. And I think that was a lot of it in terms of like harking back to, harking is the right word. Harking back to some classic stuff. And I think that was sort of the lead up to the Christmas special, which we already know we have feelings about. You can go listen to that episode so we don't rant about it here. But
we're going to rant about it. I have some, I have some things.
We will revisit points.
Yeah. But no, there was a moment in the pilot, because it's also the first episode, but where it like he looks at Bill and then he looks at the picture of his granddaughter.
Yeah.
So there are I guess it's mostly, I didn't watch the entire season over again, but that definitely showed up in that moment.
And I think just the idea of him being a teacher to begin with is very classic Who, just from what people have explained to me about it, in terms of like being slightly more educational in the early seasons and like being him, the doctor with his granddaughter, and like being familial and stuff like that. So I think those are all purposeful callbacks to earlier Who, where it was less, we're BFFs who have sexual tension occasionally, which is what a lot of
New Who
has been. So I think that is what they were trying to sort of pivot away from in a way. But also I think that some of the professorial let me pass, on these words of wisdom is also partially on it being 12's last season also, and them just sort of like giving him all the
monologues.
Yes, like giving him this like last chance to be great and be, some of the, the finale with, these are the things you need to always be kind, which is a great sentiment, and like it's been memified and things like that, but it was just a little too much in context of what was happening for me. But it was all in honor and support of it being Capaldi's last season, I think also, which sort of structured his relationship with Bill. Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think also, so like, in the Doctor feeling obviously like responsible for Bill, he sacrifices himself for her. So in the Oxygen episode, which I actually forgot about until I was rewatching and saw it like in the previously or whatever. So he goes blind because he saves Bill from like from dying basically in space, and it messes with his eyes. And while we have talked about that particular plot point, but just like the fact that he did sacrifice himself for her and then does not tell her that she's blind or that he's blind. But then when she finds out in a moment of crisis where she's like, well, you have to be able to see because you can't die, because otherwise then we're like really doomed. So then she ends up in some ways trading the world, like giving the world up to the monks in order for the Doctor to be able to see again. Which ultimately was her playing the long game and not necessarily like not literally sacrificing herself or sacrificing the world for him, but in some ways, like short-term wise, that is what happened.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I mean that, you know, it goes back to just being like, he's the one who can save us.
Right.
And so, yeah.
I think the other thing I didn't, and I'm now thinking about that through the lens of Infinity Wars, which is probably not fair to anyone, but
trolley problem.
right. But I do think that we had this moment, and I can't really remember. I want to pull up like the episode list where I felt like she was doing that whole like I'm a nobody or who am I thing. I'm not smart. I'm not whatever. And we'd gotten past that. And I feel like, was that on Smile or?
I don't remember that.
I feel like it happens before she trades her. Maybe that's when, I don't know.
No, I don't. I feel like early on, her main thing was like, because she was so excited about the world, or like about like the TARDIS and being able to travel in time and space. I think, at least to me, the way I interpreted it was very much like her then having to come to terms with the horror of it. So like in Smile, she like finds these people who have been disintegrated and they're like finding their bones and stuff, and like, oh, this is terrifying. And then she sees her first person die. Like, so she's in it. So like, it seems like the first kind of 2 episodes for her was just grappling with that, you know, like grappling with, oh, there's horror in this as well.
Yeah, I feel like that's an interesting point to make because it happens with all the companions. Like, it's usually, you know, their second episode, and it's just like, it's no longer, second or third episode, it's like, wow, this is no longer as fun as it was that one time. But I feel like it was a consistent thing with Bill, where it was like her excitement for the world and her curiosity was constantly being, like, confronted by the terribleness of the world, which in retrospect is an interesting choice for the first black gay companion. Like, I think she might know the world is pretty bad.
Right.
And now it's just like, well, oh, it's the whole universe? Great.
Yeah.
And
Things
obviously
that black queer people do not need to learn.
Yeah, it's like,
Right.
she can barely travel to these places that we've taken her, so what are we doing here?
Well, like, I've also thought, so just kind of getting into her actually traveling in time, when the Doctor first, after their first adventure, and they decide to sneak behind Nardal's back, we will not talk about him yet, but when they decide to go on the first adventure, the Doctor asks her where she wants to go, and she said someplace happy. Or she said the future because she wants to see if it's happy.
Yeah.
So, like, she knows that the past is not good for her. And so she's like, I want to go somewhere in the future. Obviously, it ends up not being happy. And it, like, in some ways, her saying that was supposed to be a nod on the fact that the episode's called Smile, and then you have to smile with the emojis and all that kind of stuff to not die. But, like, on the other hand, it's also like, I want to see if the future is somewhere that's safe for me.
Right.
Right.
And it's
not.
Oh, guys,
awesome.
It's just terrible that the places where it is least safe for her, the episodes where she faces the most danger, are in the future. The episode where she's shot is in the future.
It's not get there yet.
Listen,
well, that's all that matters. Allegedly. We can argue that it's from racism, though.
Blue Lives Matter.
I'm ready to fight. Let's do it. Not fight y'all, just fight Moffat.
we out here in the streets. Meet us in Temecula. But yeah.
As I told my friend the other day, so we just want to talk. We just want to talk.
Just want to have a nice conversation.
Just have some just have some words.
Sit down to tea.
I will say, though, that one of the things about Bill's whole run is, like, for a minute there, I was like, is she Rory 2.0? Like, leave her alone, you know?
Kill her.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was one of the biggest mistakes of the season. Was we were so excited for her, and then the way that they introduced her, she was so lovely and full of life, and I think maybe they were thinking like, oh, wouldn't it be pretty like interesting to see this very happy, positive person constantly being shat on, and how they would, you know, but like not taking into account that like as a Black queer woman, like, she's always been shat on. And so it's a conscious decision for her to be bubbly and asking questions and curious. Like, she doesn't, we don't need to see trauma put upon her because her identity already comes prepackaged with trauma.
Right. And
you
it's
know?
just it's obviously the matter of who's writing it.
Yes.
And then the idea of like colorblind casting, which we talk about in like the Harry Potter sense for those who listen to Wizard Team in terms of Seraphina Pickery.
Don't make no goddamn
Oh my. Oh, okay.
So for anyone not listening, for who doesn't know Harry Potter or has refused the Fantastic Beasts of it all, Seraphina Pickery is a black woman in 20s America.
She's the president.
Who is the president of the American magical community, which, you know,
1920.
The magical community also includes muggles who are racist. Just 90% likely to be racist. So it's just the idea that, like, they colorblindly cast Bill, or like they cast Pearl Mackie, and we're like, okay, great, we get our, you know, diversity quota for my last season.
I think they were looking for a woman of color, right? If I remember correctly, or maybe not. Maybe that's something else.
I think that they were, but they didn't look for a woman of color to put in the writer's room.
Right. Oh yes. Absolutely not. That's going too far.
Oh yes. It has to be, you know, Moffat and Gaddis writing it up or whatever.
Moffat and Gaddis
fantasizing about British colonialism.
Yep.
Yeah.
But
life was so much better when the sun never set on the British Empire.
Let's take it to Mars.
Yes, let's take it to the entire galaxy. But it's just like people who are making these casting decisions are like, okay, even if they did want a woman of color, it's like, okay, but did you fix... They, like, made a couple of changes that are very clearly related to Bill's race. But, like, they're not grappling with the weight of the casting choice. So, like, I think that these are comments and, like, jokes they would have made if they'd cast an Indian woman or an Asian woman. You know, like, they are about race and about being a black person traveling back in time and about a racist making racist comments and the doctor punches him in the face, which is like, good on you, whatever, but it's not very specific to her identity of who she is. And so it's just like, all right, let's copy and paste. Let's, you know, we could trade out any woman of color for this position and it would have made just as much sense.
Yeah.
Despite
and it's so funny.
And they want their cookie at the same time, though.
Yeah, because it's so funny because I'm thinking about when we first watched that episode. And like we were talking about, we're cautiously optimistic. But I was excited. I was like, wow, they actually acknowledged that like it's not safe for Bill and all that kind of stuff. And then I rewatched it again. And like recently and was like, they still don't really do, like, they have that line where Bill's like, is it cool if it's safe for me to walk around? The doctor's like, oh, you're right, I don't know. And he's like, and she's like, well, how do I stay out of trouble? And he's like, well, I'm not the person to ask, which is true, but also does not really answer her question in that, like, after that they move on, and then she just goes and changes and is fine. And then they have that little
like
black girl who's there. Who's in charge,
like Shakespeare Code.
And then homeboy is racist and he punches him in the face. But at least, like, it was really like us grasping at straws, right? Like, at least he acknowledges that racism exists, right? Or like, versus like,
bare minimum.
Versus just being like, why would you get carted off as a slave? That makes no sense. You know what I mean? So like, but then like watching it again, it's like, oh, these are baby steps. And then him talking about history's a whitewash, like he said it one time. These are all baby steps. Yeah. And then the like, one black person in the in British Army in the Mars episode Gaddis fought against, because he was like, there were no black people in the British Army.
Lies.
So it's one of those things.
In case you guys are wondering, you listeners at home, that is a falsehood.
False.
Maury determined that was a lie.
But yeah, so it's just like, it's interesting to like talk about it now, like much further after when we were talking about it when it first happened, and us being like excited about it versus like seeing it now and being like, that's still like baby steps, like
the
from
bare minimum.
Yeah, we had
And
so much
also,
hope for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I also think that like we didn't get, it wasn't consistent, you know, because again, I just want to, they would not have shot her if there was a person of color in the writing room or a black person.
With
and I know
enough
that
power to say no.
So the first time in Oxygen, so before she
no.
gets shot by the blue person, there's a moment where she gets called racist by a blue person.
Yes.
And I remember that happening and being like, that's not
great.
That doesn't make sense. And then she gets shot by one. So then it becomes like,
and it's the same species, right?
I'm pretty sure it's the same species. So then it becomes even worse.
And I think, like, for me, my biggest problem with it, I mean, there's so many problems with it, but, like, where do we begin? But, like, was that there was it was like, oh, and I try really hard to be like, okay, this is not set in America, you know, whatever, but I, again, go back to when we landed in London for the Cursed Child, there's the Black Lives Matter protest. So they're not oblivious to the facts of...
And some of that stuff happens there, too.
Right. That's what I'm saying. They're not oblivious to the fact of life of that happening in their own country. But also, from a marketing standpoint, like, they know that this is going out in America, and America is the biggest market. They were very excited to break into America. If you remember the Doctor Goes West of it all, the New York premiere, Comic-Cons, and all these things. So if you're writing for a global audience, you should have global, not that you have to change but you should just be aware. You should have global awareness if you're writing for a global audience.
Which is like just the biggest chunk of irony in that this season is the one that kind of talks about colonialism the most, as Bayana was saying. And literally the sun will never set on the British Empire. But it's like the sun will never set on the British Empire, which is like the whole point is that the British Empire is literally everywhere still, even if it's not empire. Like the results of colonialism are still here and they are still present. And they're still, like, with the British. Like, there's no, like, that's in the past. We don't understand what's happening. Like, you are still a global idea. So, like, the fact that they cannot think globally in their storytelling outwardly, or I guess, like, inwardly, like, bringing the idea of those other countries into Britain, even in storytelling, is just so ironic.
I mean, is it like, because I think too, it's like, I think it just is what, like, Moffat and Gaddis, like, if you just think on Moffat's run, the number of Victorian episodes, like, he really fucks with that fashion. Like, that's just real. He was like, that's
his aesthetic.
That's his aesthetic. Like,
Listen,
even when they're not, like, even like when it's nothing's going on, even when they're not in Victorian era, it has that, like, it's that thing, like, that's what he likes. And so he's like, let's take, what if we had Victorian soldiers on Mars and let's have them drinking tea and calling each other old chap under an ice cap. Like, it's just, and like trying to colonize Mars and the Doctor not being like, hold up, playa. Instead, he's like, no, let's have peace. You guys should just coexist together. Like, no, motherfucker.
You should get off our planet.
Kick their asses off the damn planet. Like, get them. So it's just like, and then also only painting one person as like the real bad guy, right? Like, they're not really, they like want to address things without really addressing them. Yeah. Because they don't want to then go ahead and be critiquing themselves or all of Britain. And so then it's like, because Bill is like somebody was saying now, I'm tired.
One of us.
But one of us said, like, because Bill is a woman of color and she's a black woman and she's queer, they're like, we have to bring these things up. And so let's try to do it in our storytelling, but they're not actually like interrogating anything. They're just like, this is there. Also, and Connie brought this up.
The only one that suffers is Bill. Sorry.
The only one that suffers is Bill, but then also like The only time we see any instance of overt racism is in the past.
Yeah.
And like,
right. And then when they go to the future and it's the blue guy, he's just like, oh, well, now you're racist against aliens. And like it shifted.
Which also, that's not how racism works.
Not at all.
So we've shifted the racism and it just like has passed off to someone else, but it's not still present with black people because there were other black people in that episode as well, like in the future, and they didn't say nothing.
Bill had no interaction
with the other black
people in any of no, especially when she's like I get if you're just like happen to be in like you're in the same time and you're like if you're in your regular time and like knock or whatever. Like I don't think there were any black. I think there were just other women of color, but like. In that situation, but if you're like literally in the past or literally in the future, like not in your time, you're on a space station and you see another black person, like I'm gonna have, especially Bill, who has 1,000
at least
questions.
the nod.
Can we just at least talk about the fact that I was in Indiana for 4 years? That is in this country. That is not in a different solar system. And every time I saw a black person, it was a party. He was like, "Hey, fam, what's up? How are you? I'm living. How you living?
Welcome to my life now. We're best friends."
Every time we were at a party, it wasn't even like we're best friends, but every time we're at a party, you good? Yes. You good? Yes. Check back in with you later, because I know it'll switch up.
That's it.
Because
that's all you need.
They didn't have to have like a full, like, we're black, I'm black, you're black, we're great here. It could just be like a, hey, what's going on?
We're brothers, we're happy,
like,
and we're singing.
And especially with Bill, I'm sure she'd be like, how did you get here? Like, what's up with your family?
She'd be so
like,
curious about it.
Yeah. She's got questions.
Yeah.
Questions for days. And none of them were ones that, like, and some of them were good questions. Not to say that they weren't good questions, but but it just felt like there were missed opportunities in some situations.
Oh, definitely. So many. I wonder now. I mean, we still have I'm assuming he's white, male showrunner. But I wonder if they do like a post-mortem and and try to think like, okay, here's where we're gonna, switch things up.
But where besides this podcast and occasional tweets, where do they get this feedback from to know that they did something wrong? Is where I feel like the answer is no. Or even if they do have one, they're not going to be able to address the issues that we specifically had
with the power to say, hey, y'all fucked up here.
Right. These are the questions.
Yeah.
Also, let's go here.
Nardal?
No, before Nardal. So let's talk about... So we've sort of talked about her blackness in the past and the future. And then, like, there aren't any queer people in the past or the future that she encounters.
She encounters at least one in the episode, The Eaters of Light. So it's like the Romans and the Celts or whatever. And that one Roman is flirting with her. And she's like, I don't like dudes. And he's like, wow, you only like one gender? That's wild.
Right, yes.
Like... That's but again, it's a quip. It's not like a, like...
Yeah, they don't actually, like, deal with it. Besides, like, look, we did it. Yay. But...
There are a couple of, like, things about her being a woman that comes up, too. But, like, again, like, quips are like, oh, this person is just sexist.
Yeah. But, like, thinking about that and, like, the two people in the present that she becomes attached to... just choosing my words carefully for the one.
I love the word choice.
You love who you love, no matter their race, but it's just it's interesting to me that they forced her to go off with Heather, who was white, and poor Penny, the other black girl, gets the shaft. Like, she just doesn't even get any attention, and it's just like... Not to say that, like, you have to pair, they've already paired the spares with Mickey and Martha, and it made no sense. So, like, not to say that, like, oh, she had to be with Penny because she's black, but it's just, like, on top of all the other sort of, like, ways that they thought that they were doing something, and then they weren't. it's just one more thing where it's just like this random white girl
Well, the
who
problem
you talk
is
to
that,
for one episode,
exactly,
as opposed to Penny, who even if you don't remember those dates from, no, she remembered those dates, right?
Well, no,
they weren't erased.
So one of them, so they weren't real. They were in like a simulation, and so then when the doctor called Bill and he was like, "Call Penny," and she's like, "Oh, Penny's out of my league" or whatever, and the doctor's like, "Nah, some shit's about to go down. Call your girl. She's not out of your league. Go call her."
Right. Okay.
Shot.
She
and then
existed,
it's not really clear whether she did
real.
that. But first of all, Bill and Penny obviously go together. Like, they just look like a couple. So let's just get that out of the way. Second of all, so I was like watching, when I was rewatching, I was like rewatching just to see like, okay, maybe I'm tripping. Maybe Heather was in more. Like, no, she had her full arc and Bill was really sad about it. But by the time the next episode came, she did not think about
Heather. Talking about it. Was it open?
For Heather.
They didn't even bring her up.
Was it randomly crying like Amy was when Amy lost Rory and couldn't remember?
Wasn't that at all. And so I think that's the thing, and it goes back to Moffat not really understanding how to write relationships, is like of any kind, like platonic, like it doesn't matter,
familial,
like none of them, unless the person is right there on the screen on the page, he cannot do it, because he does not. There are no hints. Other than that last, like, oh, I don't think this tear is mine. But that was in the first episode. And then it doesn't come back up until the last episode. And so then you're like, Heather? Why Heather?
13 weeks later? Really? Like we're
She's
supposed to believe?
That's how we meet Penny. Because
they literally, they didn't, like with Heather, like, they didn't. So there was like a time lapse in the first episode. So but it doesn't seem like they didn't really go on dates. It didn't seem like Bill really saw her. It was more like Bill, every time Bill saw her, she went out of her way to talk to her, and like they flirted. But it didn't seem like past that it really went anywhere. And like it seemed like when Bill was upset towards the end, it's because like this girl who she had a crush on is dead. And like it doesn't have to be like I loved her. It's just like that shit is disturbing.
Yeah.
Right, like that it could be sad even in a platonic sense. And then so okay, we add that she really liked her. But that still does not mean, like, they go together, like, we go into space together. That's like, oh, I still want to go to coffee with you some more to find out who you are. I want to stalk you on Facebook a little bit.
I'm going to change species.
Yep.
And become...
permanently.
Sentient oil.
Yep. Do we want to talk about that now, her death now, or do we want to wait?
Well, what else do we have? Nardole?
We have.
We also have. What else do we have?
I have one thing to say about Penny.
Maybe you only have Nardole.
We do. I think we only have Nardole left, but I have one more thing to say about Penny, which I said before we press play. How do you create a character so fly and misuse her? I was instantly Team Penny.
Okay. I was immediately like, oh, okay.
Yes.
We're doing this? We got somebody out here?
I'm in.
Like, what?
I've already bought tickets. I don't even know where I'm going. I don't know where the show is, but I'm a fan.
And it just goes back to, again, and like, we keep saying it ad nauseum, but it's just the more we watch it, and I just really hope that it's something different. There are like 3 companions next season, and I just hope it's different. In that, we have, like, the show, Moffat forgot, especially after Amy Rory, which I think was, like, the closest he got to the idea, that, like, the humans around the companion keep the doctor helping the companion stay alive. Yes. Like, it's because of humanity. It's not because he loves this one person, however he loves them. It is because he loves them and he loves the people around them enough to want to bring them back. And it is very evident it's very evident in the last 2 companions that he had, who both just kind of die and like go off into space, because we've talked about how we'll get into Bill's death being repetition, but like her exit was just also repetition, in that both of these characters do not have family to go home to on Earth. And so it was super easy for them to just be lifted off into space.
And it was easy for the doctor, right, to just like
let them go.
Clara, so not that, but then also like, so Clara, like, went off on her own and did some shit behind the doctor's back. So, like, there really wasn't nothing he could do about that, right? Like, that's how he died. But, like, Bill died because the doctor had her go off on the thing with Missy, who was not ready. And, like, Missy wasn't the reason that Bill died, but she was, like, learning how to be the doctor. You don't take a human to go and do this, like, test run with, like...
And she's new. Bill was technically still new.
Right. Like, you don't do that. Send Nardal's ass. Like, he could die twice. But, like, I just... He
could die 10 times.
I don't understand.
He literally could, though. Like, he's an android. Like, he's not real.
Let him go.
And so, just to go for all the way back, too, when we first meet the doctor and he's teaching at the school that Bill works at, a large reason why he's staying put is to keep watch on Missy's prison, I guess. And Nardal is there to help him keep track of Missy. So, ipso facto, I don't know if that's the right phrase for that, but either way, if Nardal is there as like another prison guard, basically, when you want Missy to go off on her own, send Nardal.
Send Nardal. Don't send the human.
Don't even ask Bill to come.
No.
Right. And so it's just like, it's just such a repetition that neither of them had real families, or like they had pop in and out families that like came up as plot demanded. And so like their ends match that, because even I was rewatching Amy and Rory's end, which I know Robin hasn't seen yet, but the idea of their ending is that, listen, like, all right, Rory gets taken and Amy's like, me too, because that's who she loved and she wants to stay with him, and that's her person on Earth who she wants to stay with. Like, I feel like at least in that one relationship, he sort of got it. Not as well as like RTD did, but like, then look what happened. We get these crew companions who just basically die because they have no one at home, who the doctor is like, I'm gonna fight for you to get back home.
Right.
And that just really frustrates me, because it just sort of means Bill was really alone also. And that's why she was so happy and so willing to go off into space. And I just need the next season to sort of undo that. And, like, she had a
friend, but then, like, she never came up again. Like, they almost became roommates, and then some shit went down, and then she never comes up again.
And then the roommates that she did meet, they don't really become friends either. Like, I was like, oh, snap, we about to have a crew? Okay.
Right. No. It was
there
one
were just
episode.
So many missed opportunities where it's like, oh, we could have followed up on that and had a better story than whatever we came up with.
But they needed to spend time on Nardal. We needed to know what was going on with him.
Fucking Nardal.
How was I going to go to sleep at night not knowing if Nardal was okay? Even sometimes now I stop and I think, how's Nardal doing on that ship/planet?
Guys, our next episode is going to be talking about Nardal as a companion. Because he was a full-time companion, you know?
Yeah.
So obviously we need to talk about him in a whole separate episode.
No, but what we will do is talk about how it's River's fault next episode. We'll talk about Nardal next episode, and it'll be about fucking River out here like, here, Nardal, I know I'm dead, but go hang out with the doctor. That won't get on anyone's nerves.
Oh, I don't know why you're being so rude about Nardal. I mean, I just think he was a very integral part.
So what's really funny is that, so I like randomly, I didn't have
space right now.
What's really funny is I had, I was doing something that like I needed to listen to a podcast for, and I didn't have any to catch up on. So I just like went back to the first Tarbus episode, and I was really kind to him back then. I was like, I don't really know why he's here, but like, we'll see. And he's, you know, he's the obligatory white dude on the TARDIS, and like, that's annoying, but okay, we'll see. And like towards the end, I was very much like, I don't like him, but I feel like it was still nice compared to now. But now, like, and it was funny because I was also, when I was rewatching the first episode with my sister, she was like, I don't mind Nardal. Like, I don't get why you don't like Nardal. And I'm like, it's just like the principle. After a while, he just gets so annoying, and nothing he does is necessary. Like, someone else could do those things. You could easily write him out. And like, if there's a character where you can just easily write them out, then what is the point of that character?
Yeah, it's literally useless. Because he doesn't add anything to the relationships or the plot.
Right.
Yeah. I remember being much more generous because I was like, it's Matt Lucas, and it's kind of, they're trying to do the whole James Corden thing that they did last time. Like, you know, he's a big name there, whatever. I know, but I just remember.
And I actually did not hate Nardole in what you called it,
the Wedding of Whatever Song.
I was like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
But then it's just when he's sticking around, I'm like, why?
Why?
For that, I didn't ask for it. Me personally, I didn't.
I don't think that anyone did. I think we took a poll.
Maybe Matt Lucas asked for it. I don't know. Hard to tell if he asked for it. He might not have asked for it either. He might have been like, "Ooh, cool, I'll do it this once," and they're like, "Oh,
you want to stick around?
I'll come back."
Like,
sure. I mean, you don't say no.
Right.
Honestly, you don't say no.
I would say no.
And it's like, as Robin has previously explained, like, he's popular in the UK, and it was sort of like, not even just the James Corden of it all, the Catherine Tate of it all, where it's just like, okay, this famous person, but, like, they don't even, in the sense of, like, so at least Donna gets, like, emotional weight, you know? So, like, they were able to show off Catherine Tate's acting ability, and they're like, okay, she can be really funny and really cool, but also she can, like, match the Doctor. She can match Tennant's emotional gravity when it needs to, and also switch on a dime. Like, that ability was something that they both recognized and, like, brought something to the show that was needed.
Chemistry.
Yes.
Who did Nardole have chemistry with?
Not even himself.
His bald head.
So, like, if they were trying to recreate season 4, the idea of a comedic actor on Doctor Who, like, wow, let's, like, bring this person in, like, at least give him emotional,
something to do.
Like,
but then also, like, how about just focus your writing on Bill, who is the main companion? Like, why does it have to be the Doctor, Bill, and Nardole? Why can't it just be Bill on her own? And, like, I understand, like, the whole idea about the ensemble cat and, like, whatever, like, I get that, but I also just don't care.
If it had been someone better, if it had been Penny, it'd be different. Or if they picked up Heather.
Penny on the TARDIS. Penny can come on my TARDIS anytime. She can take Danny's seat.
Absolutely.
But, I don't think Danny even had a seat.
He didn't have a seat.
Well, like, the seat that would have been his, but that was his before he actually showed up on the show. When they announced he had a seat. And then he showed up and was like, nah, fam.
And you were like, nah, sorry, we actually don't have no room here. Okay. Got it.
It's bigger on the inside, though. Nah, son. Nah, son.
No space.
No space.
But, like, even if they had picked up Heather, who, like, maybe then I would have believed that she was useful and, like, that Bill actually liked her enough to sacrifice her humanity, because, like, she was already gone, but, like, she basically was like, you can choose being human or you could be with me, and Bill chose, like, if the only choice was to be with her, maybe then I might have understood, like, all right, Bill, you gonna go off.
My thing is, she chose to be with Heather to see the travel in space and time, when she could have just become human and traveled with the Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And got home.
But, she didn't, okay, let's go here. She didn't know the Doctor would regenerate, because they didn't pass that information along.
I need the Doctor to stop not telling his people that. Because that makes no sense. His whole, like, sorry, we talked about this already. I'm going to leave it. It's fine. Just kidding.
So, Bill is shot in the chest by a blue man. And I don't, again,
I'm still angry.
We did just discuss that the UK absolutely knows about Black Lives Matter and Blue Lives being a thing. Like, I can't imagine that also hasn't passed along. I don't know if their cops were blue, but I can't imagine that hasn't passed along. But it's the combination. It's like it's just a lot of things stacked on top of each other. It's like she was shot in the chest just during a time. If this episode had come out 5 years ago, no, that's wrong. 10 years ago, maybe, like, it was still happening, but it wasn't like this national, like, phenomenon of, like, everyone's watching it all the time. So, like, maybe then it would have been like, all right, I can excuse your ignorance about this. But so that happens, and it's traumatizing, and it's just like, I'm sorry, what? And then it's like, okay, let's turn her into a Cyberman, which we just did with our last black companion. Okay,
black character. He wasn't a companion. He can't come.
He's not invited.
He's not on the TARDIS.
He had to die like that and become a Cyberman, but he's not invited on the TARDIS.
Right. And then Homegirl is not allowed to have emotions. She's told she's too angry because she died and that she has to calm down.
Yep.
And
everybody's afraid of the big bad black girl, Cyberman.
Who's a Cyberman and technically silver, but like we can still see that she's black, so there are no black people in the writer's room, there are no black people in the directors on set, no one's black in the editing room where it's like maybe we should cut one of these lines at least. They're just and I'll say no black people with the power to say no, because I want to remember that, you know, you can have a black person in the room, but if they're the lowest person on the totem pole, their ability to say no and be like, I actually think that you're wrong and that this is incorrect might be in jeopardy if we want them to stay in the room and be able to move up and have the ability to say no later in their career. So I just want to point that out. But, like, come on.
But even
like,
at that point, like, as you're saying that, and I'm like, yes, I completely agree, like, with everything you're saying, I'm also thinking, but then at this stage of the game,
white people should also know.
A white person should have said no.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
they should also know.
It was so tone deaf that it was like, you're doing this on purpose. You do not give a fuck. Someone brought it up, and you just decided, nah.
I'm still in the, I can't believe that stage, but I understand, like, I technically want to be where you are, but, like, I'm still in the, like, I cannot believe that we did, like, stacked on top of each other reasons why this plot should not have happened.
And so my thing is like, even without the optics of it, and even without the, like, recycling of, like, story plots for different characters and stuff, like, just the fact that, like, they thought killing her in the second to last episode of the season.
Of her only season. That they
of
knew
her
was
only,
be her
and knowing
season.
It's her only season is ridiculous. I also think that, like, Moffat just likes tragic endings for his companions because Amy and Rory didn't have to go out the way that they did. Clark was fine, but I feel like having one tragic ending for out of 4 of your companions, I think that's enough. Like, and it doesn't have to be tragic in the same way. Like, why is it all if somebody's dying? Why does it have to be so graphic and violent? Like, it could really just be like, dude, I'm ready to go. Or
somebody could have just been ready to go. Bill is exactly the type of character who would have been like, this was great. You are fantastic. I love you. But I'm going to go and hang out with my girlfriends. I have more than one. Like, she's exactly that character.
Have you seen my closet? It's amazing.
Like, come on. Like, I'm styling. I'm on fleek. Like, you know, I gotta go. Why? Yeah, like, it literally all of who no companion has been like, I'm just, well, except for Martha. Martha's the only companion who's been like, I'm done. See you later. And
call me if you need me.
If we're recycling all the other plots, let's recycle what the black character did last time.
With some agency.
Let's choose that one as opposed to becoming a
Right,
I hate the
cybermen. That's also the difference between Clara's death and Bill's death, right? It's like Clara didn't parallel. She didn't do it on purpose, but, like, she did have agency in how that happened. Whereas, like, Bill just happened to be standing there.
Yeah.
And then happened to be rolled into a room.
Nothing happened.
And then she's made a Cyberman out, like, without her consent. So, like, it's just all.
Nothing happens to Bill in her entire season that she has complete agency over. Things are happening to her. People are making decisions around her. And it doesn't jive well with me, with the character that they created of Bill and that characterization, that she wouldn't be able to shout out Hermione Granger in the Quarter Life Crisis, write her own ending. Like, just one episode where she says, nah, this is what we gonna do, and follows it all the way through, and then not some random something. I don't know.
But also, like, the fact that so many terrible things happened to her throughout the season and that they were so out of her control would have also made her making a decision to leave an interesting ending, because it would have been like, oh, but don't you want to travel with me? No, you put my life in terrible danger, and like yell at the doctor. Like, we don't get like, we get that, like, Rory was like, you make people a danger to themselves, and like the whole point of what's his face, Danny is that like the doctor is dangerous, but so little of that is the companion making that decision, and like it's here and there. It's like very
and, like,
occasional.
she yells at him for a moment, like in Thin Ice, but it's more about his reaction to death versus like, and that's just because she's still getting to know him. And once she figures that out, then there's never another kind of discussion about that.
Yeah, and so like her making a solid choice to be like, hey, you put me in too much danger and I don't want to do this anymore. It was fun, but don't call me. No number who this. Like, would have been an interesting ending and something that they hadn't done before. But no.
Guys, I think we should write Doctor Who.
Obviously.
BBC America, hit us up.
Call us.
Black and nerds at gmail.com.
Make Doctor Who black as fuck.
Yes.
Not even that.
To make our own.
Like,
need to make our
just
own.
not hella white.
Not exactly. I was gonna say. I was like, not even black as fuck. Just not hella white.
Not hella white.
I want to see Raza Jaffrey as my doctor. First off, I want a full musical episode. One more time with feeling. You know, singing and dancing.
I can't write that, so.
I just want characters and companions that actually do some shit and aren't just like treated terribly.
Yes.
And are actually like developed in a way that makes sense and are not
and have families
and don't end up in Victorian London every 2 seconds.
True.
That's a staple. That's not going away.
Which is also, can we just say though that Victorian London was a shitty place to be? Black, white, whatever.
Okay.
Why are we trying to go back there? Unless you were like
because
the
it's
richest
the height of the British Empire. That's why.
I mean, unless you are literally going to be in the Queen's Court or whatever, like, miss me.
Yeah.
Listen.
Miss me with it.
I also don't think the doctor should be able to go back. Because there's too much. He's traveled there too much. So, like, what year can you go to where you aren't crossing your own time stream? Because London is not that big. Like, he's already like in present day London. I've already like given myself a brain wrinkle thinking about how many versions of the Doctor are in current day London. So, like, I don't
Victorian
need
London. It's wild.
Ooh, if he can't go to 1938 New York, he definitely can't go to Victorian London anymore. So hopefully she doesn't. Let's just, before we move on to our next episode, which is about River, who is not a black companion, despite many years me thinking that she was somewhere in the mix there, black companion. Let's just say a quick TARDIS prayer for our newest black companion, who next time, after we're done with the companion series and the next season starts, we'll still chug along and see how these episodes do. But we are getting a new black companion, and I just want to say a little TARDIS prayer that they
don't get shot.
Yeah.
Can we talk about Bill's death? I mean, we have already, but there was something I had to look up because, you know, the question that the Christmas special brings up is, was she actually dead?
Right. I still don't know.
So I looked it up. I looked it up, right?
Pilot?
No, so I looked it up because I was like, is she dead? So then it says, so this is on the TARDIS wiki.
Wait, give a reminder of what happened for anyone who's listening and
after Bill goes off with Heather, she becomes oil and goes off with Heather to travel the world. And then all of a sudden in the Christmas special, she's back.
Not oil.
Like, memory of something, and she's not oil, and she doesn't remember Heather, and it's like not really clear what the hell happened.
Right.
But then I went on the wiki, and so what happened is that there was a novelization of the Christmas special. And so the person who wrote the novelization of the Christmas special filled in some things because he knew that didn't make any sense. And so the way that they write it off, I don't like it either, but at least it closes some holes. So it says that Bill and Heather traveled the universe together and visited all the places the Doctor never got around to showing Bill.
Only because he didn't tell her that he could still.
Eventually, Bill decided she wanted to try being human again if Heather was willing to live a human life on Earth with her. They purchased a home together, went clubbing, and grew old together. And then they died of old age.
Went clubbing?
When Bill died of old age, she gave Heather permission to go back and continue traveling the universe.
As
Pros
oil.
twice upon a time. Yes.
Yeah.
Bill's memories were retained by the Testimony Foundation, which assumed her form as it interacted with the Doctor.
Yes.
So
I'm
Bill is dead.
speechless.
So Bill is dead, but it's because she died of old age after clubbing and purchasing a home with Heather.
Just clubbing.
They purchased a home together, went clubbing, and grew old together.
Clubbing, though.
Went clubbing.
Okay, but what did Bill do as a career? How did she have money for this home? How did they get money?
It's on the pole.
You don't make money when you go clubbing? I think you're doing it wrong. Because I'm always rolling in dough after I go clubbing.
Oh my gosh.
You're not?
She was on the pole.
Yeah, she was on the pole. They moved to Atlanta, is what happened.
King of Diamonds or whatever that place is called.
Like, that's what happened.
I mean,
I'm so upset.
we've talked about Bill's fashion sense, but like, I don't see her as being very successful on the pole. Not saying that she's not a cute girl, I'm just saying she don't have all the requisite.
Well, she goes to lady clubs, so like maybe it's different there.
They respect women
Regular
more.
strip clubs.
Maybe.
That one on the pole, she's there because she has a good brain, great personality. Oh my God!
She's a new girl from that episode of Atlanta. It's like that's just her shtick. She's just always a new girl. Oh man.
Yeah, no, like it's funny because I went to check because I was like, is Bill actually dead? Like, what is happening?
When you think they can't do her any worse,
that like that was not made clear in the actual show, which is something you can it's really easy to just make, instead of bringing Gaddis on here to play yet another character, let's talk about what happened to Bill and then maybe we'll figure it out.
And it would have played right into the idea of the episode, and we still could have done one or whatever.
3 white people in an episode, 3 old white dudes. But I digress. Then they fill it in, and clearly it's like they did not think about it enough. They were just like, okay, let's just here's an excuse.
They didn't think about it at all. That's the first answer, and when you're brainstorming, you always throw away the first answer.
That's never what you go on.
Clubbing? Oh, she's a millennial, so like,
obviously,
what could she be doing? Well, obviously she went clubbing.
She went clubbing until she died every night. When she was 80, they're like, Bill, you back? Yep, turn it up. Yep. This is my song. Ooh, this is my jam.
What?
She got a heart attack on the dance floor.
Permission to go travel the universe again. It makes no sense.
I'm upset. I'm more upset.
They do Bill so dirty, like in the pros, in the show. Just stop it.
All of it.
Just say that you did not know.
How many times
what
she
you
run
want.
into Penny? I wonder. With her white alien girlfriend.
Penny was not at the club that much. That's what happened. She was like, I'm going to go see what's up with Penny. And Penny was like, nah, man, you club too much. And I got stuff to do. I got a job.
He's like, I'm an introvert. I don't have time.
I don't even think we ever see Bill go to the club. Where they get clubbing from? She was at the coffee shop.
They did at the very beginning of the pilot. When she was making eyes with Heather. She was at like
she was sitting down. She wasn't clubbing.
They get up.
Well, she dies of old age, so she's sitting down in the club a lot.
They stare at each other in the face while everyone's clubbing around them. So that clearly means that that's what they're meant to do for the rest of their life after traveling in time and space.
I think it makes perfect sense.
I'm more upset.
I think all of my questions were answered.
That's why I was like, let me just wait till.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. On that note, can we just end it there? I think it has to be over.
With Bill on the pole.
With Bill on the pole, going clubbing.
At 80.
She got one of those walkers that have the seat on it, so she can still be in the club, but she also can take a break when she need it.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense.
Oh my
Like
gosh.
she didn't have any. Okay, sorry. I have to continue. Like keep going in this one fashion. In talking about her as a companion is that she didn't have any career aspirations.
Nope.
She was the chip girl at the school that she didn't attend, even though she was probably school age and could have still been going. We don't know why she doesn't go to traditional school. We don't know what else she's interested in except for girls. And like Amy
And clubbing.
and apparently clubbing. Amy like switches careers a lot, but like at least she had some. Like at least they were like, okay, she's a young millennial. Like I understand where they got the idea of like, oh, who cares what her next job is? Millennials don't keep careers. Like their idea of a millennial is sort of just like, whatever. So
Which
like
why,
I understand.
why aren't y'all buying diamonds and houses?
Right, like all
Putting
that
all your money
avocado
on
toast.
Avocado
toast and clubs.
and covers for the club, but like at least she had a couple of careers, and obviously they like had no idea what they actually wanted to do with Clara for a minute. They're like, oh, she was a nanny, and then because in the other episode she was the governess, and then she was really a barmaid or whatever, and then she's a teacher, and so it's like, okay, at least she has a career. Like they eventually figured it out. Bill had nothing. She didn't want to do nothing.
She had the
except
club.
for travel.
At the club. I don't understand why you were confused.
And like, why couldn't they have just made her a student?
Because the student has responsibilities and can't
So does
spend
every
as
other
much-
companion. Like,
can't possibly spend as much time at the club as Bill needs to live a
the whole
fulfilled
point
life.
is time travel, so like they can have whatever career they want and be back. And like, obviously, it's a joke that like he never gets them back on time. But again, that's at least interesting and a specific thing. Okay, I'm done with that last bit. All right.
All right, well, thank
Anyway,
you guys.
I'm disappointed in my twin, and I
I
was
will
so excited.
Thanks for joining us for TARDIS. I'll see y'all at the club.
Check us out at blackgirlscreate.org.
Also known as
Where
the
you
club.
can find. Really, Connie is upset because she realizes that that's her future. As Bill's TARDIS twin, she's like, "Oh shit."
My
man,
future is the
where am I
club, and
gonna
I'm
get
an
the energy?
introvert. I don't want to go to the club. Don't make me go to the club.
I literally wore an introvert pin today, so like I'm really not ready for this to be my
Like, why
career.
is this my life?
My career,
Yeah.
because that's her career, is club and owns a house with an alien.
With oil.
Right, because wasn't Heather dead? Well, I guess she was dead too.
Well,
Okay, anyway, check us out at blackgirlscreate.org where you can find our brand new Critical Companion series inspired by Doctor Who, where we dissect themes in nerd culture. So you should, read and pitch.
Be our companion. We're the Tarbis, and you are our companion, and you join us for a bit. And we take you through time and space or something. Or you take us through time and space with your stories and your articles. Anyway, visit our website to find more about what that is. We explain it way better, I promise.
Patty did some yoga. I love that stretch. That was good.
There's a real description on the website, so you can figure it out there. Also, rate and review us on iTunes and wherever you listen to this podcast.
Copy and paste those reviews across platforms, y'all. Help us find more people for our Tarbis who are not named Danny Pink.
Yep.
iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, your mama's friend's barbecue Post-it board thing. Just put it everywhere.
Your own Doctor Who communities, tell them.
Yep.
Yeah. Just talk about us everywhere. Thanks.
And Tarbis is now a part of Hard Knock Media. We're really excited to join the Nerds of Color's podcast network, including the podcasts Hard Knock Life, Southern Fried Asian, BCTV Classics, Ask Bi Girls, Desi Geek Girls, We're Not All Ninjas in That Moment. You can check out all these podcasts and ours at hardknockmedia.com. Knock is N-O-C, as in Nerds of Color.
Boom. Shout out to Keith.
Shout out to Keith.
Just for being Keith, like, honestly.
I know,
yeah.
right?
This is just, like, a small part of, like, the Keithness that is worth shouting out.
Yep. And then, as always, follow us on Twitter at We Black and Nerds. Use the hashtag Tarbus to talk about all things Doctor Who. Join our Slack where we have a channel dedicated to talking shit about Stephen Moffat. And yeah, next time.
That basically is what Who Watch is.
That is what it's become. Next time we will be discussing River Song.
Yes.
Some timelines. I'm ready.
Oh, Lord.
I'm so ready.
I am not ready because it gets so out of whack.
I was really ready until y'all started talking in the Shit on Stephen Moffat channel on Slack. And I was like, wait, are y'all about to ruin River for me?
I'm trying not to, and I think I still really love her.
I still love River.
The flaws are there, but I still love her.
I still have things. I have thoughts. But mostly I just want to talk about the timeline because that's awesome. It's lit.
And mostly it's not River, it's just Moffat. So, we can just transfer all of the stuff we have about River onto Moffat, and then it's fine. Okay. So we'll do that next month.
See y'all then.
Do you skirt skirt?
Bye.
Blame Beyonce.
The black girls have the box.